the accountant
Mhm.
with Ben Affleck.
Yeah, I've seen
But you would think that it's about accounting, but it was nothing about accounting. It was about something else. I was like, okay, I'm gonna use this as people know me as like an accountant, a black accountant, but it's so much more to me, so much more to my life. So I use that as like the platform, but it was basically just an autobiography and a platform for me to speak on everything I had been through up until that point. In childhood, I have a twin brother. My twin brother is disabled. In the very first chapter, I talked about what I really felt about that
Mhm.
because I felt like in black families, that time, those type of things weren't really talked about. I talked about how I felt going through elementary, junior high with kids trying to make fun, like the emotions that I felt about it.
Mhm.
So then it led to, okay, what's next? So then it was about the high school incident, losing my scholarships, the whole walk on experience.
They wanna box me out, but they ain't did it though. Cause I'm too different, I pivot, I pick and roll. I give you game, I call that a give and go. Man, it's too easy, a layup, a finger roll. It is more than 94, it is more than 94. This is more than 94, 94, 94. It is more than 94, this is more than 94. Yeah, this more than 94, 90, more than 94, yeah.
All right, welcome today to another episode of More Than 94. Today we have Charleston Gurley. Charleston is originally from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. He's a national speaker, entrepreneur, author, and a young emerging mogul. Girley owns and operates 2 real estate investing companies and has amassed a $2 million portfolio of multifamily, single-family properties within 3-year time. He received his bachelor's of accounting degree in spring of 2015 from Arkansas State. He's a Red Wolf, as well as his master's in business administration. I don't think I knew that. In 2017. He went on to publish an autobiography book called The Black Accountant in 2000. This book is available on Amazon. Just a little plug. And then finally, he's a former Arkansas State football player from 2011 to 2015, winning 4 conference championships. His motto in life is keep dreaming. Girley urges his followers and clients to make their dreams a reality and to rise above an outdated, unworkable, middle class myths and limitations in order to achieve peace and create an ideal lifestyle that they desire. Free your mind, free yourself. Welcome, Charleston Gurley, to the More Than 94 podcast.
I love that.
Hey, what's
Charleston,
up, y'all?
yeah, just walk us through a little bit of like how like sports cultivated your life in the beginning, because I don't think we don't know like how. I only knew you in obviously college. So have you played sports like for when you were a little kid on up? Like just walk us through that.
So pretty much played sports ever since I was little. Started off with baseball, actually. So played baseball, then I got into basketball, and then I got into football. So playing like all the little league sports around the neighborhood growing up. And then I started to like take more of a liking to football. So I started to play football in junior high, then in high school. And so at that point, I was always watching college football, so I was watching LSU. So I was always wanting to like go play at the next level at LSU. So I actually applied to LSU, but then out of state tuition was like crazy. So I was like, okay, I need to like revamp like this whole strategy. And then I started to apply to like colleges in Arkansas. I did get accepted into Fayetteville, but I felt like it was too far from family. And so Arkansas State was like the next stop. So the crazy thing about Arkansas State was it was like a 7-on-7 camp. And that was the first time that I actually got a chance to like come up here. I think we were juniors in high school, and I'm gonna just be full transparent. Like we came up here and we used to think Pine Bluff. So we did the little camp and then we like snuck into I guess the football locker room or whatever. And we actually stole some shirts.
Dang. How's some
Yeah,
report?
Wait, so how far is Pine Bluff from Jonesville?
I think it's what 2 hours.
it was 2 hours.
Okay, so that's not bad. Okay.
Yeah.
2 hours. So we snuck in, we stole some shirts. We went back and I kept the shirts and I was like, man, I think I want to go here or whatever. So fast forward to senior, I started to get some offers, but then I had gotten to an altercation in the second game of the season. And so I had got suspended for 2 games. And then in that time, like the offers that I had, because I had ULM and I think I had Tulsa. They got pulled. So that's how I ended up. I was like, okay, it's still Arkansas State. So that's what led to me like walking on to the football team.
So you wasn't recruited by Arkansas State.
And I recruited myself basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So walk us through that, because we were both on scholarship, but like how, like any difficulties, how hard that was to walk onto a place
Man,
that wasn't recruiting you,
yeah,
and then to go on to what I think you ended up getting a scholarship.
Oh
yeah.
wow.
For me, it was a humbling experience because I had already had offers.
Mhm.
So in my mind, I was like, okay, I'm already good enough. But so there's a difference between a true walk on and a preferred walk on. So preferred walk on, you just don't have a scholarship, but they want you there. And more than likely, like you can get a scholarship. But that wasn't the case. So I missed all of the little summer workouts. So
Oh
when
yeah.
school enrolled, that's when I just went up to the football team and I was asking like, hey, when are tryout? So they actually had a little tryout where you catch the ball, you run, you lift weights a little bit. So worked out. And then I think they got back with us maybe within a week, everybody that tried out. And I ain't gonna lie, it was like some scrubs that was like trying out. So I was like,
So
dang, I know for a
Yeah.
fact,
Yeah.
like I can make the team like based on these. So
Not some
like
scrub.
a week passed and then they put out like an actual list, like
Yeah.
you see in the movie, high schools and stuff.
Did I make the
You
team?
go,
Trust is like,
yeah, I made the list. So I made the list. I was like, okay, cool. So then, but at the same time, that walk on is normally just like practice squad only. Like you're really there for like number purposes.
Mhm.
So we test dummies against the starters, scholarship players, all of that. So literally starting from the bottom. And so what was crazy was that you had the main locker room where everybody was, even preferred walk-ons. And the walk-ons we had to be in the visitor locker room.
oh, so you didn't even have a
So
I
locker,
didn't even know
essentially.
that.
So you didn't even have a locker.
Yeah.
You just
You
showed
weren't
up.
even with the team.
yeah,
Like you were in a
yeah,
whole
we were in
separate.
So y'all a
we
whole
were
outcast.
whole outcast,
Dang.
whole outcast in the visitor locker room, in the shabby lockers, all of that. And so that's where I started. And then, from there you just try to work your way up, but that was literally like the starting point. And so the funny thing was it was freshman year, and you know how it is, you try to make a name for yourself, you try to get girls. So I'm on campus.
The thing though,
For
because
boys, it has to
a
be.
boy thing. Because I need to know. I have a 13-year-old, and I'm like, is that the
Yeah,
thing?
You
Like
trying
your
to get
freshman year, you
girls.
just wanted everybody needs to know who you are.
you want a reputation.
I
Like
think it's, the first thing I think about is diseases. The first thing I'm like, bro, like it's too many diseases out here to be trying to just get girls.
but it was crazy though. So I'm going around trying to introduce. I don't know anybody here. So me and my homie, we trying to introduce ourselves to these girls, and we're like, yeah, we on the football team. So going back again, they only put scholarship players and preferred walk-ons on the roster.
Okay.
So the girls looked up the roster like in our faces,
Oh,
and they was like,
that's
"Yo, we don't see y'all on here. Y'all lying, bro." I was already feeling low, like being in the visitor
In the
locker
locker,
room and
yeah.
everything. Now I got people thinking like I'm lying about being on the football
Thinking
team and
that you one of
everything.
those guys.
So
You know how it is when you're on campus. Oh, I'm on the football team. I'm on the basketball team.
absolutely.
yes, yeah, but it was crazy because it was a humbling experience because
Yeah.
in high school I was at
You were
the
that
top.
guy.
You were that guy.
Yeah,
You were
yeah.
that man.
Yeah, and then it was just like a complete drop. It messed with my ego, messed with my pride. That was an interesting journey, definitely from the beginning.
What kind of mentality did you have to start from the bottom and then eventually getting that scholarship? What kind of gems could you
Yeah,
tell kids?
I know you're already motivated, but
What kind of how,
man,
did you have a good mentality going
mentality,
into
work
it, or did you have
ethic?
to work towards that?
it was a couple things. So the first thing was money. So my parents basically said, "You don't get a scholarship like in a year or two, like you're gonna have to come back home because we can't afford like student loans and everything like that." So that was the first motivation. And when you say anything about going back to Power and Bluff, that was like a hell no for me. Because again, like it was my pride. I never wanted to be one of them to go out and try something and look who back in town, or I told you they wouldn't make it, blah, blah, blah.
You had so much
So
potential.
that was, you said what?
You had so
So
much
much
potential. You
potential, yeah.
didn't.
Yeah. So that was like the first motivation. The second one, kind of what I put in my motto was my dream. My dream was to always play on ESPN college football. And so I felt that dream was still possible. It was just like a different route. Because again, like the people that I tried out for, no disrespect, I feel like they were scrubs. And then the scholarship players, I felt like they were scrubs.
What year was this? Because I want to make sure everybody knows.
2011, y'all was whole
2011, y'all were
scrubs.
scrubs. The
2011.
right
You
out
can
for
actually
Arkansas
be
State Wolves
Charles
were
came in there and
scrubs.
took all y'all time. What position did you play? I didn't ask you
Yeah, I
that.
was gonna ask,
What position?
I played safety. It was like a little hybrid position. So it was like safety / linebacker.
Okay.
Everything was true that lined up because like when I came, I obviously had the red shirt because we was in season. But when spring ball came and in the spring game, I led the entire defense in tackles. So like when that happened, that was obviously another boost of confidence of, okay, like I really can compete on this level. Like a scholarship player doesn't define if they're better than me or anything like that. So like those little milestones of accomplishments, like creating even more and more motivation to just keep going and get closer to the ultimate dream.
Gotcha. But what got you into this position where your scholarships got pulled away? So what was that altercation? And then you learned from that altercation.
So that was the whole, so we had, in that time, we had 4 coaching changes. And Malzahn was the one where I came in and I basically earned a scholarship with him. But then Malzahn left, and anytime coaches leave, they bring in their recruits, they bring in their coaches. And if you're a walk-on or if you are one that just earned a scholarship, again, it's almost like falling back down to the totem pole because they only are allowed so many scholarships. On paper, if they feel like their guys are better than the ones that are previously on the team, obviously they're going to make adjustments or whatever, and they can use any type of excuse as to say why we pulled your scholarship or whatever. So that was really the case with me. It was a coaching change. And then they really just brought in their guys. And since we were already walk-ons or whatever, it was just at the end, at the bottom of the totem pole.
So it was easier
So-
to just tell y'all, I got you.
Yep, it was easier. And I mean, that one, I feel like that was my first like real setback because at that time, like I was trending to like becoming a starter. And so when I lost it, I fell to like 4th on the depth chart. And 4th, man, you probably get 1 rep in practice,
The
2
depth
reps.
chart. I didn't know what that was. I heard it on All American.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
didn't know.
football is a depth chart. Yeah.
Okay. 'Cause
Hey,
were
I
you-
ain't
were
spent
you
the best out here though.
Were you playing with Don Jones?
Did you play with them?
Yeah, so
Okay.
Don was so me and Don played the same position. So
That's what
I
I thought.
actually learned a lot from him. So it was me, Don, and there was a guy named Kyle Coleman. Like we all played same position.
Yeah, I think I remember that name. But yeah, it's so many people on the team. It's like, what, 4, 5, 6 people
It's
at
so
one
many
position?
people. Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no way.
It's so many people, and it's all about finding like your position. Because you got some people like they may want to play receiver, but receiver has 8 people, so like you might not ever play. So the good thing about my position is that it was only 3 of us, so I had a way better chance of like playing and moving up on the depth chart. Because when Don was here, Don was a senior, so basically I was in position to be next in line, and Kyle had played offense all of his life. I was only the one played defense. So I really understood like the whole scheme and everything. So that gave me like another advantage over Kyle at that time.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
But I was going back to just letting people know, even though you had that shortcoming in high school where your scholarships got pulled, like
Mhm.
how did you
Oh,
get
how-
over that, or what went into play for you and like mentality wise when you got those, or what did you learn from that? Because obviously something happened to where they were like,
I-
"Nah, good."
I learned that man, my actions, they bring consequences. And so
Mhm.
that one was, I was upset with myself. I was upset because it was a guy I had beef with all throughout high school from like a rivalry team. And I just really allowed that to get to me to create an altercation like in the game. But then it ultimately affected me like throughout like life at that moment of everything that I was trying to accomplish. So the first thing was like I had to accept like my actions in that point, but then I would say the second thing was like still not really giving up of finding like another alternative.
Keep going.
Obviously, like a walk on wasn't anything that like I really wanted to do, but I still wanted to play football. So it was like, okay, what are some other alternatives that, I can do? So one alternative was so in Pine Bluff, it's a HBCU, UAPB. At that time, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to UAPB, but UAPB didn't give me a full scholarship. So what I had to do was like weigh the options. If UAPB would have gave me a full scholarship, I would have went there. But since I didn't have a full scholarship, they wanted me to walk on. So I'm looking at it, I'm like, hell, I'd rather walk on to a higher program to give myself a better opportunity instead of just walking on to somebody that's just, I felt like at that time was like, Lord, so weighing my options on what would be the best avenue for me if all of these are giving me like the same options. And so that's what pushed me towards Arkansas State. Cause I was like, I'm gonna have to walk on somewhere. I might as well go where I can at least play like higher competition, SEC,
Yeah.
closer to home. And it's a better program. There's nothing against HBCUs, but that's just
You
what
know the
my
programming is.
at
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you didn't want to stay at home either, though. So that
It,
was
not,
right.
not, I really wanted to change in my environment because UAPB was literally 2 minutes from the house. I knew what type of crowd they
You knew
had. I
everybody.
knew,
Yeah.
but at that time, it was really like taking a chance on myself because I grew up like 99% around Black people, and Jonesboro was the complete opposite. So even that was,
It's a
it
culture.
was
Kind
a
of a culture
culture.
shock. Yeah.
I didn't realize. I mean, I guess I didn't realize that bit about Arkansas pop up.
I had one white person in my graduating class. So you go from that to
Yeah,
one
but
Black person
so your
in your
teachers are Black
college
too, or
courses.
no? Was your teachers
I'm
Black?
pretty sure.
Your teachers are Black, Caleb?
Major-
Majority, bro.
if we might have had like maybe one white teacher, but they were so like descriptive.
I get it. It's a culture shock because I
Yeah.
grew up in like K through what 8.
Mhm.
It was a good mix, but predominantly white. So when I went to high school, it was predominantly Black, and I was like,
See that? And so I was always predominantly white. All my situations besides my family, but I've always been that in those kind of situations. So I've
been
never.
one of
So
the
I was like, what if I would have went to HBCU? I probably would have been like, what?
what is
What is going on?
happening?
Too many Black people. But yeah, because I've always been a mix, or it's always been like I've always been the only Black
The only
girl in the
one,
class,
yeah,
or
yeah.
something like that.
They pronounce your name Shania.
Or Shania. And not Shania. But yeah, that's cool. Wow. So you obviously you made the grad. You were a good student and stuff like that. So let's fast forward. So from sports, how has that helped you in what you do today? And you can just explain a little bit. I explained in your bio, but what you do about Florida State and how you got to where you got to.
I feel like sports help me relate to other people because, like I said, at the time in high school, I really only like talk to Black people. So when I came to A-State, it was white guys on the team, Mexican. So that kind of helped me like maybe broaden my perspective and horizon to be able to talk to multiple people. Cause I was one of them people where I had my clique. It's the only people like I'm gonna hang with, I'm gonna run with. And then you get to football or you get to college, whatever. And then like outside of practice, they have you like come to barbecue or come to the coach's house and all just the intermingling, which I hated, but it can help me talk
I
to.
hated it.
You did?
I hated it, but when I look back on it, it was so helpful.
Yeah.
It was so good. Were you there when we had to do like the booster banquets or whatever?
I
We had
had
to
those.
introduce
Yeah,
ourselves.
I didn't like those.
I hated those.
But
But it was so needed.
For sure. And not to cut off you off, Charleston, but like we got Coach B. But he did a good job of putting us in the community and getting in front of people. If he ain't do nothing, he did that
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, facts.
And so we were put in front of people all the time, had to introduce ourselves all the time.
Talk to people,
talk
go
to
outside of our
people.
comfort zone. And I'm not even the biggest talker, so I'm just like,
So all of that helped, especially like when it came to like trying to transition into the real world and just being able to talk to people, communicate, being upfront and not shy, everything like that. So football can help with that. And then also traveling, whether when you travel to games, you don't really just get to interact too much, but even just those small interactions, because I didn't really travel in high school. So even those, like going to the bowl games and you got the fans coming up, knowing how to talk to the fans, knowing how to stay away from the fans, So all of those, like, mingles definitely help.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I didn't know. So that's good. So like you come from, so like your upbringing, you didn't leave Pine Bluff much, or this Arkansas, you didn't travel much.
And the only place I went was Hot Springs. That was pretty much
High
it. Hot Springs,
Springs.
and then maybe like the surrounding places like Memphis, but that's when I was like playing AAU basketball. So I would just go play basketball. But as
Where
far
you
as
be
like
watching?
really traveling, mm-mm.
Okay. I
No,
won't
would
grill
you?
you
Were
then.
you? No, I don't think he heard you. Were you good at basketball? Were you decent at basketball? You said
Yes,
no.
yes. I was averaging like 20 a game.
Oh,
What
wow.
position did you play?
I was like the 4.
You
The
the
what?
four, like a small four.
Are you?
So
He pretty. He
6'1".
he
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
he's pretty.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I won't grill
So
you too much on
Yeah.
basketball.
well, I
Because
love I
most
love
football
football
players
more,
suck at
and
basketball.
For sure.
either one
Yes.
scholarship, so but I love football more, so that's what I can lean more towards.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I was straight.
Yeah.
I was
Okay.
straight.
Okay.
He was like a Kevin Durant.
Not Kevin Durant.
Not the shooting.
No.
Definitely not the
Oh,
shooting.
no, you ain't had no jumper. They like, bro.
I was just pure inside game. That's it.
Got you.
Charleston,
But yeah,
currently, are you currently just focused on and solely doing real estate?
yes,
Okay.
primarily. But you always have ideas and passions about everything else. So I
Yeah.
still do speaking engagements, public speaking. That's something I like doing, volunteering with like youth programs and stuff like that. But if I had to say my bread and butter is definitely real estate.
And so for somebody that didn't like to go talk, now you like to go speak.
Yeah.
So
How do you
did you grow?
evolve and
How
morph
did
into
you,
that person that didn't want to speak, and now you're doing speaking engagements? You wrote a book, all these things.
So I feel like that I got 2 answers for that. The first is that I would say God's will or God's purpose for your life, like whatever that is, I feel like it's just gonna come out.
Yeah.
So that would be the first one. The second one is that I would just say life experiences. So growing up quiet, had my own clique, but then as you start to experience more in life, you start to get to a point where, okay, I feel like I want to speak on this. So I would say what kind of brought out the more of the public speaking was the book that I wrote. So what sparked the book was like a very bad breakup. So I'm like, dang man, I don't know how to deal with these emotions. So
Mhm.
then I just started writing. And so then from writing, it's okay, dang, I feel like other men, other guys probably have these thoughts, probably closed in. And
But
so
don't
then it's kind
express
of like,
it.
I want to at least share with other guys. And then I think that started to give me a voice to speak just even more and not be afraid to speak. So I would say God's will and purpose for your life and then just life experience. It transitioned of who I was at one point to a different version of
Mhm.
myself.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
And so you have so you're, I guess, I hadn't read your book. We got it, but I'm lying. I hadn't read it. But so what
What was the book about? Because I know you mentioned it. Can you tell us the
Oh, yeah,
title again and what
it's the
you know?
Black Accountant.
Yeah. So the way I came up with the name was it's a movie called The Accountant
Mhm.
with Ben Affleck.
Yeah, I've seen it.
But you would think that it's about accounting, but it was nothing about accounting. It was about something else. I was like, okay, I'm gonna use this as people know me as like an accountant, a Black accountant, but it's so much more to me, so much more to my life. So I use that as like the platform, but it was basically just an autobiography and a platform for me to speak on everything I had been through up until that point. In childhood, I have a twin brother. My twin brother is disabled. In the very first chapter, I talked about what I really felt about that
Mhm.
because I felt like in Black families, that time, those type of things weren't really talked about. I talked about how I felt going through elementary, junior high with kids trying to make fun, like the emotions that I felt about it.
Mhm.
So then it led to, okay, what's next? So then it was about the high school incident, losing my scholarships, the whole walk on experience. And so I felt like I started to just talk about every pivotal moment in my life that had happened up until the breakup, because that was the real thing that kind of sparked like a lot of stuff, or at least the thought of writing it. So talking on every pivotal point. And then even there was some chapters about God, because I feel like growing up it was just go to church. Why? Because I told you to. And so even talking about my experience of finding my faith through
Mhm.
all of those experiences and everything. So that was pretty much what was the book about.
That's
That's
good.
what's up.
And you're twin. So what? I know, but tell like what kind of disabled or disability does your twin brother have?
Yeah, so he contracted it's a disease called meningitis. And
Mm.
basically it affects like your hearing, your mental, and your speech. And so what happened was he ended up having a very high fever and they took him to the hospital. They had to do basically like surgery on the brain and they found out it was meningitis. And so right now he has elevated hearing. So maybe right now his hearing might be 1%. And then maybe in a couple hours it might be 80%. So his hearing fluctuates, his speech is delayed, so he can't really necessarily talk. And then what's the word? I want to use the proper term because we've been learning like when we're speaking on like people with disabilities of using
There's
proper
proper
terms. So the
words to
proper term
use.
is
Yes.
that I want to say a little bit mentally delayed. So he's not completely reliant on like other people. Like he can do only so much for himself, and then the rest he's relied upon other
So your mom
people.
has to take care of him a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. And that like how's that built character in you, or just how you shaped as? Because it could have easily been you and not your twin brother.
Yeah, man. It's giving me different perspectives. The first was when we were little, there was a camp called Camp Odyssey. And basically it was a camp where all kids disabled during the summer. So I went with my brother to basically be with him, chaperone him. And that was the first time that I was like, dang, man, all of these kids are happy. So the perspective that it gave me is that sometimes we like classify them as they're disabled, but what I found is they're more happy than we are because
Mhm.
they don't have to like worry about anything. Like they have their frustrations, but for the most part, like they accept themselves, they are okay with
They're
themselves, and
100% themselves.
they live in their own world. And I was like, dang. And then I was like, they better than us because at the time I couldn't swim. And so they had a pool, the kids out there swimming. I'm like, hell, I'm the
I
one that's
can't even.
disabled.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing. And then the second thing, which is something that I started to really accept about just really myself, is that it was a lady. We were in Little Rock. I want to say we were like 8, maybe 9 years old. It was a lady that came up to us and she was like, I have a prophetic word. You gotta be careful with this, but anyway,
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
came
Because I
up
don't
and
want
said,
everybody's profits over my life.
she said that my brother was like a miracle child. So
Mm.
for the longest, I was like, okay, I get where she coming from. But one thing I didn't realize is that like we were twins. And so looking back over my life, I felt like that word was for us both based on like everything that I had experienced. So when I think about my brother, it's almost like living the same life, but we both have different testimonies because we both are like a miracle in the sense of like how all of this is playing out. Because he's my motivation on a lot of different levels, and he gives me perspective that I can take out into the world, whether it's people with disabilities, whether it's me and my emotions on how I handled that, or even learning how to talk to my parents and give them a perspective on, hey, I forgive you for maybe not necessarily being there for me emotionally, but now I understand because if you got somebody that's disabled, like that's where all your focus is going to be.
Yeah.
So learning how to make that transition too.
Yeah, that's good. And I've always, even I've had friends that have disabled, they always seem to be like a little bit more mature. I feel like when you have a disabled like
Mhm.
sibling, like
Yeah.
they have to grow up a little
Because you
bit
have to grow up a little bit
faster
faster.
and
You have a
help.
little bit more
Yeah.
responsibility.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and take
Yeah.
care of your sibling. Oh, that's a great story in sports. So, like in your personal life, how are you continuing to transition from taking that stuff from your personal, your now you a whole adult out here, whole adult
Charleston, you're a whole adult.
doing
Reach
real
30,
estate.
so I feel like I'm an adult now.
Yeah, real estate. You getting pretty good, real good at real estate, and so just some gems in that area for kids that necessarily because you didn't go professional in football. And has that ever been your dream to go into the league from football?
At one point, it was a dream, but then like I started like getting just little injuries, whether it's dislocated finger,
Mhm.
shoulders. I tore my ACL. So at that point, I was like, man, like this stuff hurts. And then you start to see the politics of collegiate sports and everything. So like when they took my scholarship, I felt like that robbed me of any dream going to the next level. And so at that point, I treated it strictly like a business. I'm gonna
Yeah.
come in,
Do what I gotta
what
do.
I need
Go
to
home.
And go home.
go on to everything else. And then I was like, with education and knowledge, I don't have to put my body at risk. I don't have to like run all these bleachers and do all of this extra stuff. Like I can literally just take what I know and make money from that aspect. So when it came like to sports, the way I looked at it is everybody has their dreams, but you don't have to like stick to the stigma of, okay, I'm a black male, I'm a black female. Sports is my only avenue out of here, or sports is my only avenue to success. So I started to like look at it from that angle. And that's what kind of sparked like me finding just a different path for myself outside of sports. And I definitely didn't want to do nobody's coaching. I hate it.
Yeah. People ask me
Why
to coach.
is
I'm
like
like, I don't want to coach.
why is it that like people that were like decent in sport they don't want to coach? I feel like only people that wasn't so good wanted to coach.
And
All the
I feel
all the
like
scrubs
like
want to
the
coach.
male coaches,
They couldn't give it
I
up.
feel like the male coaches were miserable though. Like they were never around their families. They worked all these hours. Like I ain't want no parts of this.
So how did you pick
At
your
least not on.
Go
Huh?
ahead.
What you gonna ask me?
Who's you guys? Go ahead.
I was gonna ask how you got into real estate.
Oh, I was gonna ask you like, how did you pick your major to do accounting, and then that translates to whatever else, like real
Yeah.
estate and stuff like that. How did you pick real
So
estate actually after you did all
okay,
that?
so I'm gonna talk about coming out of high school. Coming out of high school, like I said, I ain't really know what I wanted. Only thing I knew at that time was I wanted sports. So I'm looking up majors, and I see sports management. Know nothing about it, but I was like, okay, it's got to be related, has something to do with sports. So I'm a major in it. So we had a little freshman ed class, and I forgot which one it was, but anyway, they had us Google the max salary that you can make from your major. So I was like, okay, I'll look it up. And at the time, unless you was like a top agent or something, like your base salary was like 20 to 30,000. I was like, man, I can't make no living off that.
What am I doing?
So,
Eh.
so I
So
literally
you was
Googled Forbes top paying majors.
Career. Okay.
And so it had like doctors. I hated science. It had some other stuff. So then accounting stood out. So I Googled accounting. It was like math. I was always good at math. So I was like, okay, I don't know nothing about this, but I'm a major in
I
accounting.
should have like Googled his name. It's like, let me.
I like numbers.
It was like,
It
you can
makes
make
sense.
70, 80,000. So I
Yeah.
was like, okay, cool. I'm going to do that. And then it wasn't necessarily easy, but it was manageable. So I did that and then got into my career. And for the most part, it was cool. I felt like at the time, like I was like living paycheck to paycheck. That's how I get into. Before I got into real estate, I was trying everything. I wrote the book. I was like, man, I'm finna be New York best town seller. Yeah, shit.
How did you publish your book?
I self-published it through Amazon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Cool.
So did that. I started after that flop. I did
Not
a
flop.
clothing line.
Okay.
Oh, I remember the
didn't flop.
clothing line. What
It
happened to
didn't
the
flop,
clothing
but,
line?
like the dream that I had of being like
Top
Being in
selling.
New
York.
York. Yeah.
Number on the list.
So then after that, I did a clothing line called Self Love. I realized I hated selling. So I was like, okay, this ain't it.
Yeah.
So then at that point, I go back to the drawing board. So then that's when Jabari hit me up, and Jabari was like, hey, have you ever thought about real estate? Because we were doing like promotions for my book at that time, like little interviews and stuff. And so he asked me, did I want to get in real estate? I was like, man, nah, I don't know nothing about it. I don't want to deal with tenants, toilet, none of
None
that.
of the things.
It's
right?
just numbers though.
But hey, but money talks. Money talks. He was like, could you use an extra $2,000 a month?
Oh, look, he's selling you. He's
Oh,
selling you.
yeah.
Real
I was like,
And
sale. He sold you for
And I-
sure.
use an extra $2,000.
And I was
Let me
like,
show you how.
thought about it, and I was like, yeah. He was like, I make $200 from each property. We got about 12 properties. So at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm listening. And so he was like, man, I want you to read a book. And when you get to a place in
I always
life where
want
you
you
ain't
to
really
listen.
got no other options, you gonna listen. And so he told me to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I read it, went back to him. I started like hanging with him, like often taking notes. from that, I felt confident. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna get my first rental property. And I did. And I actually got Nina and Jabari to manage it for me because I was still like trying to figure out my way through it. But that was like my entry point into real estate.
Yeah, and he took off like fast.
Oh, that's what's
Because
up.
I think he ended up getting, was that a 10-unit apartment? Was it
Your
10 or 12
first?
units? It
It
was like
was
his second,
it was
first?
a 11 it was a 11 unit.
Yeah.
No, can you take us through that
Yeah, because
process?
that was like your
getting
third property, right? Or something
It
like
was the
that.
third property.
Yeah.
It was the third property.
your third property was a 11
As-
unit?
Yep, 11.
11 unit.
Acquiring that,
11.
getting the funding for it. Take us through that.
Okay. So let me see how to put it. That one was crazy. So that was crazy. So I got the first one through government loan, FHA. That was the first house.
Okay.
So the process went pretty smooth. Me and my brother, my younger brother, painted it. Nene and them helped me find a renter. And so I was like, okay, this is cool. So I had another agent, JC. I was like, man, how can I get into my second property? So this is when I learned about relationships, not money, but relationships.
Mhm.
So he was like, okay, my broker is an investor also, and he's offloading some of his properties. So I was like, okay. And so he had a house. So I was like, okay, I just put some money. I don't have any money. So that's when I learned about like creative finance. And so he talked about there's this strategy where we can take the equity, we call it seller's concession, but we can take the equity and use it as your down payment to get into the property.
Yeah, your collateral. Yep.
Yep. And so that's literally what we did for the second property. So then I'm like, you just get hungry for more and more.
Yeah,
like,
I
you don't
want
know how to
more.
sit-
Like,
you don't know how to sit
mhm,
down.
mhm.
So I was like, okay, what's next? And so he said this same investor has an 11 unit apartment complex. So at the time, I was like, man, am I even ready for something like this? But I was always like of the mindset of, man, swing big or go home. So this was my third property. And how it happened was I was going around to all of these bankers because I was going to use the same strategy, take the equity, use it as my down payment because the down payment needed was $75,000. Hell, I ain't even seen 5,000 at that point. So, yeah,
75,000.
Steep.
so all of the bankers were like, no,
Nope.
you don't have no experience or nothing like that. So this is what I mean by doing what you have control over and then allowing God to maneuver the pieces. So during that time, I was always working out at 5 a.m. Now, I'm not telling people to go work out 5 a.m, but that was my thing. So when I was working out, there was another banker who actually was the president like of a new bank in town. And he knew me. We ended up like making a connection. Again, going back to relationship. And so I went to him and I said, hey, I got this deal. This is the strategy that I'm wanting to do. Everybody else in town has turned me down. Is there something you could do? And he was like, yeah, I feel like you got good character, good discipline. I've seen you in here like consistently. Just come to my office. So I go to his office, show him everything, and he literally funded the deal.
Bankers can do what they want to do. When I tell
Yep.
you bankers can do what they want in
Brilliance.
relationships,
The power
they will figure
in
it out.
relationships.
They will figure a way out
And-
to do it.
Wow.
And I learned that, and it's no disrespect, but there is like a chain to everything.
Oh,
when
for
I was
sure.
going to these banks, I was going to like the secretary and the tellers. They have to abide by
Yeah.
whatever rules and
Whatever's
regulations
on the
they have. You get higher up and you start to introduce yourself to the presidents. They are the ones that can bend and make the rules. And so that taught me a lesson right there. Of, okay, I gotta stop messing with these entry level people. Like, I gotta go to the top.
Let me go to the big dogs
Yep,
already.
Big dog.
Let me
Big top. Literally. And that's
big
literally,
dog. I need to
you
know
know, how I
all about it.
funded the deal.
Yeah.
No, for sure. Bankers can do whatever they want. Like, we were trying to work on that deal in College Station, and like we went into his office, sat down, like, bro, this is how you can make it work.
Yeah, but if you think
Yeah.
about it, that's anything in life. Everything is pretty flexible. Like,
Right.
it's all about if you're talking to the right person
Yeah.
and if they're willing to do it.
Yeah.
But we make all these different constraints. Everything is man-made, so
You can
you
bend
can
it.
finagle.
You can make it. You can make it work. You can make it happen.
Yeah.
So that's good. And just, just lessons of just like relationships are important because for a long time, I'm like, bro, Relationship with what? Like,
no, that's how I was. Seriously,
I don't need no. Even like I told you part of that. I was like at first she's that person. I don't need no friends. Like, who needs a friend? Like, you really need a friend.
Yeah, you do.
You really do need friends. And I'm just like, dang, like, I'm 30-something years old.
I didn't think so either, though. I was like, I
can make it. I can make it on my own by myself. Like, I don't need no friends, no new friends. But you need friends, good.
You know, you need friends.
Like, it's you do need good friends too. Like, I ain't got a whole bunch of friends, but you need a handful of good friends. And I have a high standard of friends, so I don't even call everybody my friend.
Am I your
so,
friend?
Like, yeah, I would consider you my friend. Yes. Not because we on this podcast, but like it's just a standard. Because I don't go around, even with the people that I work. People like, I work with him, that's my friend. They're not my friends. I work with them.
No, like nobody I work with. It's like
they're just my. I just work with their associate.
Yeah.
So like we just.
That's a real thing.
It is a real thing because I'm just like in my standard is so high. Like I'm just like, because I'm get real disappointed. But yeah.
Dang, so I made the list with the standard being high.
It's a high. I only got a few handful of people that I call friends, like 5. Everybody else is I know. We cool, and y'all are like friends. And when I say married couples, I just can put them as one person, but it's not that many. It's just a slim out here. But you do need some friends, though. I had learned that long.
You need friends, and to that point, like the power of networking and putting yourself out there and building those relationships.
Because I was not a networker. Jabari is such the networker, and I'm like, bro, you got too many friends.
And he gets
the stuff that we got is because his relationships.
Your relationships, yeah.
Like, none of this has come off of just because I want to be like, listen, this is what I got on paper. It shouldn't matter if we friends or not. Like, this is the results I can give
but
you.
It doesn't matter. It's all about. Even I learned that in corporate America. It's not about how good you are.
It is not.
Because most people are fucking
trash.
I was like,
they're terrible.
They're terrible.
It's really about who. It's really about.
It don't matter how good you are. Because I'm thinking like, I'm good on paper. Like, bro, like I'm a good, like legit. It don't matter.
Like you should want me.
You should want me.
Like, and it don't even work.
It does not work that way. And because we're result driven. So like you've been like, if you're not good at something in sports, like you go and work on it, so then you get better. So then you get the more playing time.
Yeah.
In corporate America, absolutely not. You can be a world's worst employee and be employed for 30 years. I don't understand it, but it is what it is.
Relationships is all about relationships. Anytime, Charleston, you can get. You were at the gym 5 o'clock in the morning. You built this relationship. You can get somebody to pay
like
$75K. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But it's consistency. So consistency go a long way, and that's
because they saw his character. They saw he comes in the gym 5 o'clock.
Just off consistency.
You never know who's watching.
You sure do not, and that's a true statement too. You never know who's watching.
You know.
So that's good. I'm like, so what's next? What could you tell the next Charleston that's come from Arkansas State that is not going to go professional in sport? What would you tell that person? And then like, where are you headed now in your life?
Okay. So what I would tell myself is that like possibilities are endless because I would have never envisioned, like if you asked me what I'm going to do after college, I thought it had something to do with accounting. And so I would have never envisioned being in this position. So I would say the possibilities are endless. I will say though, like what's next in line is I have been praying just for something, and Nene actually gave me confirmation on it when she was in town last week, and it's my contractor's license. So I've been messing around with fixing flips and everything like that. I'm actually now, I take my test in 2 weeks.
What?
So as soon as you said it, like I got on it. And so I'm actually looking to get my contractor's license so I can be licensed to obviously do my own projects, but then like city projects,
get
family
that contract
projects.
That contract, city contract.
And pretty much manage my own team. And then of course, still doing real estate. I do feel like another book will drop in the future. I've had some ideas about that. And then more public speaking, doing that. So I think that's at least right now what I envision on doing just in the future.
Now I ain't gonna put your blast on the final level. We see a future, hopefully, maybe, I don't know, a marriage around in the future.
Oh yeah. Now, so Nene gave me confirmation on that too. Like Nene dropped something in my spirit.
I have to get them right.
We can talk after.
I just had a real conversation with Charleston.
I love it.
I ain't gonna name drop, but I hope she watched this show. We're gonna get married. Speak that into existence.
I love
to love.
Marriage is beautiful. Don't listen to the people. Like
I definitely want a family. I want a little girl actually. So we'll see if that happens. But definitely want a family, and then I want to
You
just
better
continue to
marry
run
this
it
man, whoever
Arkansas.
you are. You better marry this man. I can tell he a good
You
man.
said what?
She
Huh?
said so. She said that person better marry you.
I can tell he a good man. You better marry him, girl, wherever you are, whoever you are.
We ain't gonna name drop. We might off the screen. I might tell you, Jess. But yeah,
Vanessa, if you're watching this,
Oh, it is.
I'm gonna send it to her when it's finished editing. I'm
love
gonna send
it.
it to
I
her so she can
love
see
it.
it at the end.
I love it.
but then I would also just say one thing I'm also trying to do is just stay open minded, because of course you have your own plan, and then like I have a
Right.
different direction. Trying to say like open minded, just with all of that, and just seeing if there's another path for me to blaze down, then just being open minded and being accepting of that too.
All right. Well,
I
that's some
love
good
it.
gems, and I hope let us know when you pass your test.
Oh yeah. So even with that, so again, going back to relationships, so the requirements for the application and everything, of course you got to pass the test, but I had to have 3 references, and you can already guess who the first reference was. That same banker who I did the
Mhm.
apartment deal with,
Yep.
but then the other 2 were from other bankers that I did. So not badly, it definitely just that networking, because these people can continue to speak for you, can continue to place you in front of other
Advocate for you
people
when you're not in the room.
and help you get just further and further along. And so it's a book that I'm reading right now. I think I wish I would have read it in high school. It's called Who Not How.
Who
So
not
most
how?
of the time we ask ourselves is like, how can I make $1 million? How can I make this business flourish? How can I attract more people? And it said like when you ask that question, you are keeping yourself like in an individualistic mindset.
Mhm.
The better question is, who can help me make $1 million? Who can help me grow this podcast? Who can help me
Yeah.
do? Now you are putting all of that on other people to help you build it together instead of like just how.
Right.
So once I started to ask who, I'm not going to say things started happening immediately, but it started to happen quicker. And I now start to associate people
start
with
to
this
open.
task, that task, and then also being a who myself, because I don't want to just only look out for myself. But if there's other people that need something, like me and Jabari talk all the time, where I share what I'm coming in contact with from my end of the real estate world, and then he shares with me what he's coming in contact. It helps all the way across the spectrum.
No, that's real. Yeah. Who
It's all about who.
can help?
Yeah.
So it's been good.
No, this has
Yeah,
been
man, I
a great,
appreciate y'all having
great
me on here.
conversation.
No, when I was like, yeah, Charles will be a good one. Good guest to have. I feel like. And
Yeah,
you the
no,
first
this was
guy.
great.
And it was good.
Mhm.
And I was talking to Jazz. I'm talking to Jabari the other day. I was like, you realize that we only have like people on the podcast, and not intentional. Like it
I
didn't just
think
be like
it's not
we're only gonna have black people.
intentionally, but it's just
But it's
like
just the way that it happened. And so we pretty
our
much just
affiliates, like we were kind of closer.
yeah. All we did was
with.
pick people that we just
Yeah.
know. We didn't go, and it's intentional because I didn't want it to be like we can go. We know probably a few people that we could go get that are like professional in a sport, but
Yeah.
we didn't want to go that. I mean, I would go that route because I feel like kids already. That's only who they look up to anyway.
Yeah, like I want to go to the NFL. Like this is my dream, but understanding that there's so many other avenues that sports can take you.
And so many. That's why I say it's endless out here, because you like, so my partner, like I was talking to her because it's a guy that her son watches, where all he does is open toys, is Ryan's World or whatever. All he does is open toys on YouTube, make millions of dollars. So like when I saw that, like being around like a kid, it was really like anything is like really possible. It just depends on what you want to go after. Literally.
What you laughing at? No, for sure.
Because it makes me think when I saw yesterday, and I know this is horrible. Lord forgive me. But on Instagram, I saw Saucy Santana.
Oh yeah, when you tell him,
I was like, and he performed the halftime show, and I was like,
and it's like, but
it's like anybody can be anything in this world.
you can be
Donald Trump
anything.
can be the president. Anybody can be anything.
But you know how
in this world.
that word you can be anything you put your mind to for the longest. I'm like, bro, that's the stupidest stuff I've ever.
It's mindset. No,
It is
a lot of it is
mindset.
mindset
Like, you
and
can
confidence.
be-
If you think about it, for you to be that confident to look like that and go on stage, and that guy is the limit. It's really your mindset. Yeah, it's really mindset.
Like for a long time, like, bro, that's the stupidest saying I've ever heard. whatever. I'm like, but
I used to think it was so cliche.
yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, because you don't know people's circumstances. Like some people don't have the resources to do that. So I'm like, I hate when people say it, but it's really a mindset. It's
Yeah.
really, you can do whatever you
I
want.
think social media has made it a little bit more accessible to believe it because now you can like maybe see people doing it. Social media has it.
Yeah, the amount of comedians that come on social media, I'm like, wow, what you got? People are funny.
People, yeah.
And they're just funny, but you would never know how fun they were with this tool of social media. But you can really be out. You'd be out in the streets doing whatever you want to, for real. You work hard enough, you can do whatever you want to.
Nene laughed at me last night because I
What?
talked about having some
Hey.
type of ministry, and she was like, "What?"
Are you like in the mid?
I
don't know.
I will be in front row at the service. Listen, I
And
am,
Jabari should be my associate pastor.
yes, I am here for it. I am coming to Dallas. What's your ministry called?
Y'all send me the.
I'm
y'all
not
send me
about to
the
play with
drop. Let me know.
Charleston gonna fly in. What's your name?
I don't know.
We
I
gotta
don't
figure
know
out a
yet.
name.
We gonna figure out a name, but it needs to reach the masses.
We bastards. We got. Hey, she got a lot of stuff we want to tell the masses.
We gonna speak.
Hey, just be ready for the backlash. Oh, they come.
Don't be on that prosperity gospel, Jazz.
The prosperity gospel.
We need to learn all the ways to. No, see, and I'm gonna turn into a whole side. It's a whole leak out in these streets, and I don't even want to. Sometimes, let me stop. All right, but that's game, Charleston. Thanks for being on More Than 94. Good to have you.
I appreciate it. Y'all take care.
All right, bye.
Thanks.
If I'ma start it, you know I'ma finish it. I'ma show all of you folk with the businesses. Walk off the court into multiple businesses. That's a crossover. I'm shooting, I'm swishing it. This about legacy. This about lineage. This generational. Make sure we plenty rich. Make sure my kids ain't got a penny pinch. They wanna box me out, but they ain't did it though. Cause I'm too different. I pivot, I pick and roll. I give you game. I call that a give and go. Man, it's too easy. A layup, a finger roll. But it's more than life.